Hello, I'm Sylvia Syred, and you're watching or listening to my Think Well, Be Well podcast. And today I have Susie Anthony with me, and I let her introduce herself because my brain is scattered and I'm not good at retaining information. But I can see from what she's done so far, there's quite a lot to tell. Susie, hello, thank you very much for joining me.
Hi, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I suppose I'm an award-winning author. I've written a book that's now in the Bodleian Library called A Map to God. And it's based on an ancient alchemical map to self-enlightenment, self-realization from bondage. So bondage to freedom, according to the Gnostic Christians who wrote the map 2,000 years ago. So I've basically summarized that, slotted my teachings into every stage that unfolds, and taken it to the world.
That sounds quite a journey.
It has been.
I bet.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later because I'm very interested. Um, so, in one sentence, Susie, what do you offer to the world?
Okay. All the how-to of becoming empowered, of embodying divine love, wisdom, and power in day-to-day life, and shedding the skins of fear.
Beautifully put in one sentence. Well done. Not many can do this.
I've had a lot of practice of this.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I shall work on mine too. So would you be happy to share a little bit about the path that led you to where you are now, your personal path?
Yes, and I mean, it absolutely slots into, as do all our lives, into the 7 levels of the Gnostic alchemical map, the map to God. And it's, I started off in ego, in do, have, consume, distract, and esteeming myself from false external symbols of power. In terms of a career, I became an exec assistant. I did secretarial support, including law, accounting, business studies, really. And then I set off to work for one of the richest men in Africa. And 10 years later, I was bored. I divorced and I went to work for the 5th richest man on earth in Japan, a Japanese called Takahashi Haranori. He was a samurai. He invented Big Mac economics. He's referred to as the original bubble gentleman. He created the bubble economy in Japan. And for 6 months, I was on cloud 9. This was all I'd ever wanted, because my credo for life then in ego was, I'll show you who I'm with and you can tell me who I am, because I had no idea. And so I felt pretty good working for these big shots until I didn't. I suddenly started to take off the blinkers. I saw the greed, the corruption, the desire, people in his organization to have power over others and do anything to get it. And I felt sickened. Long story short, I ran out of energy. Somebody said, go get these vitamin shots. A lot of have them every week and it's just vitamins. So I went. It wasn't just vitamins though, it was with amphetamine. Suddenly all my power came back. I felt godlike. And then the doctor's practice that was dishing these out got closed down in a raid. And somebody else said to me, well, why don't you take cocaine? It's not addictive. This was 30 years ago. And so, although I'd grown up in the record business, my brother produced Genesis, Roxy Music Queen, and I'd seen drug hell in terms of the stars he worked with and in his life. But anyway, I thought, well, I'm not an addict. I can just take this so I can keep doing this powerful job. And after 6 months, I was a full-blown addict. I was spending £1,000 a day on cocaine. So I resigned, went back to South Africa, where I had a home. But on the way, I picked up a kilo of cocaine from Colombian drug lords in Amsterdam, as you do, and went home and took it. I'd lost the will to live. I hated myself. I judged myself to be greedy, corrupt. It was not a good time. It was the real breaking down to break through. So on the 72nd day of my drug binge, I shot out of my body, hurtled through a dark neon blue tunnel of light, and then found myself speaking to a formless electromagnetic energy field called the archangel Michael. All very shocking for me. And I said, am I dead? And he said, no, it's not your time to die. And he said, but you've created all the pain in your life so far to get to this point so that you could come through the tunnel into the bardo and receive instructions for your mission. And so he said, we're going to take you through a life review board and purify you mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. We're going to rewire you so you can carry higher frequencies. And when you go back into your body, you'll have constant contact with us. You can ask us anything, and you'll hear a voice telling you what to do, or you'll just know. And that's how my life has been for 30 years. I've never been alone. I've never, ever wished to lose this connection. I've always been guided to the right teachers, to the right places, things at the right time to learn the next part of the puzzle piece. Oh, and he said, you'll write tremendously successful books. You'll be on international TV, in film. You'll speak to masses. And I was incredulous because none of this for a broken down junkie seemed remotely possible. But I came back into my physical body, picked up the phone, and I found I was dialing, pushing buttons, and connected to a number I didn't know. And a voice said, hello. And I said, hello. And I said, I wonder if you could tell me who you are. And she said, well, you're calling me. I'm ex-directory. My family don't have my telephone number. And then she said, after a pause, is that Susie Anthony? Well, I nearly fell off the bed. I just was astonished. And there was a huge pile of cocaine next to my phone. It had no power over me. And so she said, why are you ringing me at midnight on Good Friday? And I said, well, I've just had this experience. And I told her. And she was a sort of vague friend from a long time ago who had become a Hollywood film producer, was successful, burnt out, and came crawling back to Johannesburg with a small baby, no father, and had found God. So she was exactly the right person at the time. And she said, do you have a Bible? And I'm looking around, I hadn't even unpacked my Tokyo shipping boxes. And I got a strong feeling to go to the one box, opened it, and there was all my stuff, Gucci, Prada, Chanel. And there was, on top of it all, a Bible. No idea how it got there. But I kept having incidents like this over and over again, really strong synchronicities, guidance, and meeting exactly the right people who could tell me what to do next. So basically, I just took 2 years off and still had the funds to be able to support myself. And I met one main teacher in South Africa again, through a whole massive amount of synchronicities. I write about this in my book. It was incredible how it happened. He's the king of the shamans, Dr. Credo Mutwa. And anyway, I eventually turned up, met him, and he said, I've been waiting for you. And I said, well, I'm only 10 minutes late. You know, I have come in an Italian sports car 5 hours from Johannesburg to Mafeking through a military war zone to find your mud hut. And, you know, no, he said, I've been waiting for you for 6 months. I've been calling for you. And he said, I've drawn your picture. And he had. And he said, I'm here to initiate you. You've only had 9 lifetimes on this planet, and I'm going to initiate you to the power, the wisdom, the love of all of them. So you'll begin to remember. And then eventually you'll write books about this, you'll teach other people, and you'll live it in community, all of which I've done. So.
Right. And you founded a company, and what is it called?
Well, I founded a company called PSA Life Mastery, and under that umbrella, Personal Spiritual Alchemy, PSA
I was just going to ask.
Life Mastery. For 25 years, I established community. I opened a holistic day spa in Wells, adjoined to the cathedral. I had about 15 people living in community with me, learning the 7 alchemical levels, all the processes, receiving the attunements I received, and living the discipline, because I didn't feel it was enough. I wasn't seeing the results in people I desired from a Reiki session or a one-day workshop, or even a 2-day workshop. So I decided to invite people to come and live in and work in the spa and be clothed and fed and live the universal rules of community. So it was incredibly exciting. And we won best community, best retreats. My book was made best personal spiritual development book of the year. And Kindred Spirit said best personal spiritual development book in 21 years of their magazine. So
congratulations.
It felt successful. But then I collapsed with a terminal lung disease. Goodness. So I'd already conquered addiction. And I then spent 10 years dismantling a death sentence, and my lungs had become filled with toxic black mold from the 15th century manor house we were in. Although it was beautifully refurbished, they'd missed a leak, which happened to be in my bathroom, next to a sofa, next to a fire, next to a library. And I breathed it in every day. And 3 times I was given 12 hours to live. I was given 1 to 3 years to live 14 years ago, and here I am. So who better to teach?
That is more than impressive. Yeah. So is that how you work? Do you work with people who are, well, actually tell me, what is your perfect clientele?
My perfect client doesn't exist, and I'm not keen on the word perfect because it's limiting. I used to be a perfectionist and drove myself mad. And if something's already perfect, it can't grow, it can't evolve or get better. So what I look for in my ideal client, let's say, are the 6 types of courage. So physical courage, to keep going with resilience, balance, awareness. Social courage, they must have the courage to be themselves unapologetically. Moral courage, that they're willing to do the right thing even if or when it's uncomfortable or especially unpopular. Emotional courage, that they'll feel all of their emotions, positive and negative, without guilt, judgment, or attachment. That they're willing to learn all this as well. Intellectual courage to learn, unlearn, and relearn with an open and flexible mind, a sense of childlike wonder and awe. And finally, spiritual courage, living with purpose and meaning through a heart-centered, soul-centered approach towards all life, humans, animals, insects, the grass, the trees, everything, because we're all one. So if somebody demonstrates those qualities, even if it's just 1% on the Richter scale, I feel I have an ideal client. So, but they must, I do not teach fast food spirituality. I don't teach the light, fluffy stuff. Oh, there's an angel in your aura. And you're going to be very successful. I don't juice people in. I tell them it's going to be tough. I tell them too that they'll go far because they've got far to go. I'm completely honest, and I speak the truth that, you know, most teachers would never dare to speak, but I'm serving the soul of the client, not their wallet, not their ego.
Yeah.
So
how do you maintain yourself, and what are your, do you have a certain scale, or do you have a fixed price for your sessions, or how do you work with people?
I have a scale of prices, and it really very much depends on the person's circumstances. And of course, mine as a healer, well, I'm not a healer, I'm a holer. I make people whole again, and healing then is a byproduct of that. So it really depends in the moment what I can afford, what the client can afford, but usually nobody gets turned away. And I've been very lucky to work with some extremely wealthy, high profile people who pay me sort of triple, quadruple my going rate for confidentiality. And then I just plow everything back into my business. It's not a business, it's a sanctuary, it's a home where people can come and stay and learn and get well. And I'm open to part exchanges as well.
Okay, lovely. That's just in the spirit of what we do at Think Well, Be Well as well. And it's really lovely to have you in this community, Susie. And I've seen your posts and your offerings, and you're always there when somebody needs a bit of uplifting. I saw that too. Yeah, so that's really nice. Nice to have you. So do you have maybe a little anecdote of somebody you've helped? You don't need to name names, but somebody who did a big transformation, and you have an example of anything?
Yes, I have a little girl who was 11 who had a cancerous inoperable brain tumor, who was, well, is, she's still here. This was 22 years ago. She had every conceivable treatment, allopathic treatment known to man, and they'd all failed. So she'd had chemo, she'd had radiation, she'd had massive dose steroids. And at the time that I met her, she was very close to death. And her mother just happened after she got the final "we give up" speech from Great Ormond Street Children's Oncology. She had a function that night and had to have her hair done. So she was driving close to her home, but near a hairdressing salon she didn't know, never been in. And she went in, they booked her in, and then she started to cry uncontrollably. And the owner, this happened to be a client of mine who'd had a brain tumor, and it was healed in 8 sessions. And it's again synchronicity, the guides guiding her to the right hairdresser, who, when Shelley got the story about the little girl, gave her my card. I saw her the next day, and in 21 sessions, the child no longer had cancer, no longer had a brain tumor, and it was miraculous. And
Wow.
the synchronicities that happen, when I said she's all clear, her mother, the doctor said, gosh, I've got the final scan, brain scan. I'm terrified. What if the tumor's still there? And I said, well, it will be in the physical, but it'll only be about pea size instead of ping pong ball size. There'll be no cancer. And the reason you'll have this tiny little pea where the tumor was is because the physical body takes longest to heal. And I said, look, when I met Sarah, she was grey and lifeless and close to death. Now look at this little girl in the garden running around with, beautiful peaches and cream complexion, full of joy. I said, look at the person, not the picture. Look at the patient, not the picture. So anyway, she went to London, did the scan, and she got the scan straight away because she was a brain surgeon and knew them. And she said, oh gosh, there's this tiny pea. And, the head of oncology said, I can't believe it. This is only 3 weeks since we gave her, a certain death prognosis. And this is incredible. You should be jumping for joy. And he said, for goodness sake, he said, look at the patient, not the picture. And so she jumped on him and said, do you say that often? Is that a phrase you'd say all the time? Because it was exactly the one I said. And he said, no, in fact, he said, I don't know why I'm saying it. I've never said it before. And so she just took that as a sign. But also I had attuned the whole family to Super Reiki, which is an advance on standard Usui Reiki, which is 7 rays. Super Reiki is 22 rays. So the whole family learned that, and the whole family looked at what were their patterns that had caused the disease. So we found a pattern of rejection, abandonment, healed that, healed the behaviors around it. So everyone learned.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
So would you call yourself a spiritual holer?
No, I would call myself, I would say I've learned how to live my life in mastery. One of the gifts is to be able to transmit vital energy, and the power of a vital person vitalizes. So, yeah. And I've been in the trenches. You don't learn this stuff from reading a book or going to a workshop.
No. So you have a spiritual practice and a physical practice every day?
Yes, I do. My spiritual practice is a super Reiki unity consciousness self-healing program. So connecting to sky and earth, as I was taught by the king of the shamans, to then spiritualize matter, bring energy in to every chakra and recreate balance and harmony. And in Japan, balance plus harmony equals empowerment. And then whilst I'm doing that, I'm working on my own psychological recapitulation in terms of who's running classic control dramas to steal my energy. So who are the energy vampires in my life? How am I coping with it? Am I cutting the cords, hooks and ties they project? Am I clearing my karma daily with a Tibetan clearing affirmation? And I just keep myself unconsciously competent through this process. There are 4 levels of expanding awareness. So unconscious incompetence is the first level, not knowing we don't know. Then something awful happens. We wake up to conscious incompetence. We know we don't know, and we've got to study and work hard. Then we begin to move, maybe 10 years later, into conscious competence, which is more of what we practice in level 2. We know we don't know, but we also are beginning to see that we're beginning to know. and how to create that in moment-to-moment awareness. And suddenly we flip somewhere down the line into unconscious competence. So we're living everything we've learned, trained, studied, experienced in the moment without having to think about it. It's kind of like driving a car. When we learn, we open the car, we put the seatbelt on, we check the mirror, and then a handbrake, and we have to think about everything, worry about everything. And then once we've passed our test, we just get in and drive. It's completely unconscious competence in terms of how to drive a car. And so it is with the car of your life.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I see that too. Now, I personally, I'm not having the best outlook into the emerging future at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of authoritarianism and things happening in the world that I find challenging. And I'm wondering how you are looking into the future. And is there anything you would like to say that may give hope?
Oh, yes. I mean, I've always been guided to promote community living, that we learn to function and live as the same leaves, as leaves on the same tree. So that means the complete conquering of ego, shadow, persona, bringing all the wounds into the open, releasing, forgiving, and superimposing our higher self into the driving seat of the car of our lives. So we move from me thinks to we think, and then we completely embody the path of love, strength, and balance. That's the path of the soul. So it's about sharing, giving, cooperating, loving, and abandoning the path of ego, which is comfort, profit, and greed. Yeah. And so until we can embody that in ourselves, that's kindergarten. And then real school is living it together and being able on a daily basis to practice together daily, to make decisions from a consensual point of view, to agree to gently, lovingly alert another who's running some kind of control drama so they can change. And that's why community is so important. You can't do that looking in the mirror. Was I selfish today? Oh no, because denial is too powerful.
Yes, yes. But do you actually have a positive outlook? Do you look into the future thinking we've got this?
No, I definitely do not do that. I teach people how to create their future. And if we're worrying, negative, diseased, that's what we'll create. So I teach them by living in moment-to-moment awareness, dealing with pain the moment it arises. That's the, core key to resilience. That, and then special way beyond the secret, which was a wonderful mass showing of, yes, we create our reality, but they didn't really share the how to. That's what makes my work different. I share all the how to. And it's about clearing the chakra system daily through psychological recapitulation. So identifying your wounds, who's harmed you, who have you harmed, and coming to forgiveness and love and letting go. Doing that on a daily basis to become clear, because inspiration comes from source. If our crown chakra is closed because we're in attachment, the inspiration won't move into the brow to become an idea. If the brow chakra is jammed up with all sorts of fear-based illusions, the energy can't flow through into the throat. And if the throat chakra is filled up, jammed up, closed because of denials and not speaking the truth, either to self or others, the inspiration that becomes an idea, that becomes words, can't move into the heart that's filled with love. So if the heart's full of judgments and jealousies, it can't move down into the solar plexus where we move love into action. But if the solar plexus is jammed up because we desire to have control over others, then it can't move into orange, which is where we're magnetic, and bring in all the love, wisdom, power, people, places, venues, whatever it is. This was in the crown, and it can't manifest in the root. And if the root chakra is closed because we fear survival, which is the key pattern that's running right now on the planet, and the other key negative point for the root is death wish. And for the sacral chakra, that gets blocked through wrong relationship to sacred sexuality and money. So if we're greedy, the idea can't manifest in the root. If we're in poverty consciousness, similarly, it blocks in sacral. So, and I just tell people, what's the future you choose to create? Live it now as much as you can and keep clearing so it can come in and manifest.
I'm just thinking of if somebody is, for example, having a daily struggle to manage because of adverse problems in their children and in themselves, and having to do a job in order to pay the mortgage or the rent, and really consumed with fear of survival every day. Even those people, I guess, do sometimes look out for support and help, but really what they could do with would be a lot of sort of practical help and relief and things like that. So how would that sit with a possibly spiritual person who can't sort of go by these principles that you're saying, and has that everyday struggle to survive and to manage?
Okay, first of all, they have to get out of do, have, consume, distract. Oh, I'm in the sunshine again here. I'm not complaining. I love the sun. They have to get out of do, have, consume, distract. And they have to be willing to demonstrate all the levels of courage I've just explained to you. They have to be willing to give half an hour to do my free SoundCloud meditation. It's a guided visualization. It's free. It's on my website. Half an hour every day, and then see how their life changes.
That's very generous of you. That's lovely. Good to know. And I put the link in the write-up.
Great. Super. It's that simple. You know, people don't believe me because they want to make it difficult, because they want to continue being a victim. Oh, I haven't got enough money. I haven't got enough time. Oh, my children are a problem. Oh, my husband's a problem. And those are just excuses.
So
and the good news is
an unconscious program running in people like that who seem to be what you call in the victim sort of place. Do you think there's an unconscious program running that is
there are 4 unconscious programs that keep people from experiencing love, wisdom, and power. And they're energy stealing patterns. When people don't have a connection to sky and earth through crown and root, the only way they can get energy from another is to, just going to move this slide. Hang on, I'm just going to close my curtain. I'm being blinded here. Whoa.
Blinded by the light.
That is better. I can see you now. I'm not squinting.
We can see you better as well.
Good. So, yeah, the 4 patterns that keep us in separation from soul. The only way we can hope to get any energy is to steal it from someone who's in the family, the room, the business, on the bus, whatever. And we do it through intimidation. We put people to fear by attacking them, bullying them. When they're in fear, we can cord in and take their energy. And that's pretty easy. Second one is slightly more passive aggressive, which is the interrogator. So like a machine gun, you question someone to death. And when they drop to fear about a choice they've made, and self-doubt comes in, the perpetrator sends in the cord, drains the energy. The other is the victim, which is what you were describing, which is, oh, poor me. My life is just awful. I've no money. There's no time. I'm not well. I've got no energy. My children attack me. My husband is unfaithful. He's left me, in fact. And by the time you finish listening to someone like that for half an hour, you feel so guilty that they're in such pain. In goes their cord and they've drained your energy. And you walk away feeling, well, just completely powerless, drained. And then the other one is the aloof. It's the person who, when you come home from work, they're reading the paper and you say hello and you're cheerful and they're like, and then you go into the kitchen, would you like some tea? And then the minute you stop to think, oh God, what have I done? You're in fear, they're feeding off you. So when you learn to recognize just those 4 patterns, there aren't any more, that's it. It's the work of Dr. James Redfield, a friend of mine, who wrote the Celestine Prophecy. It's all in there.
I've read them, yeah.
So.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That makes a lot of sense, absolutely.
Yeah,
with
it
me
does.
too, yeah. Great. So what other questions have I got? Well, I was wondering how you felt about Think Well, Be Well, actually. What do you think of this newly found community?
Well, yes, it is. I went into a lot of thought about this and I wrote some bullet points. So what I said to myself, and I said to you earlier, it feels like real community. It feels like true sharing, cooperating, giving, gifting. It feels like a tolerant space. It feels like you're gathering together people from all walks of life, sharing all sorts of gifts and talents and wisdoms. It feels like a support system. It feels non-judgmental. And it feels as if it's created in the spirit of love, strength, and balance. So
wow, that deeply resonates. Yes, yeah, I would say Becky and I have exactly that in common with each other. Yeah, so building a community, I agree fully with you, Susie, is the grounds on which we can grow a better world. I do believe that.
If I can just add, M. Scott Peck, who was a teacher of mine, said, famous psychiatrist, he wrote The Road Less Traveled. He said he viewed community as key to world salvation. And it has to be, because as we work on ourselves and create purification of, the physical body, the mind, the emotions, and spiritual purity brought into the physical body, the spiritualization of matter. As we then extend that to the group and we all live it in harmony, and the key, disharmony, because true community starts, and the first stage is there's about 9 months of lovely sort of vain, vacuous, empty platitudes and good intentions. Then
the honeymoon period.
Yeah. then all hell lets loose. And people start to judge, attack, compete. And, all the lower mind stuff comes in, negative ego mind stuff appears. And then there's confrontation, which feels like chaos. It feels like hell. But actually, it's the key to real community, because once you can go through that and you come out the other end, you're in the calm. You've matured and you realize it's impossible to be in relationship with people unless there are confrontations, unless there's open, honest, transparent sharing daily. So
that sounds like honey down my ears, if you like.
Well, I had to learn that the hard way. 15 years of living in community in the manor house. It was heaven, but we only got to heaven through hell. And I judged myself. I thought, God, I must be doing this wrong. And then I realized, no, I'm doing it right. That's why it hurts.
Oh, that's so nice to hear, Susie. I've had a recent sort of fallout with some people, and I was the one who said, "Oh, please love me again. Oh, please love me again. I still love you." So, all metaphorically, obviously. And there was a very clear no, and I took that very personally, and
no need. We never
and I thought at the time this would have been the opportunity to bring our relationship to a different level, but it wasn't meant to be, and maybe there's another place and time for us. But But anyway, I find myself being quite uncomfortable in groups. I'm the one who asks the uncomfortable questions.
Wow.
But it's brought me, just like you say, it's brought me the real quality relationships and community into my life. And
and it takes courage.
Yes, it does take.
It takes amazing courage. And I mean, I say to people, "Are you courageous?" And most people say, "Yes," because they want to be. And then you can see that they're thinking, "Oh God, no, I'm not. I'm a wimp." And they're determined to wear this persona of courage. So the first thing I do is build the right foundation on a platform of those 6 levels of courage. Are you willing to do that? And the great thing, and this is my worldview, is okay, there's chaos because we're on our way to true community. And the chaos is, are you willing to say, whatever your belief system is, and I respect them all, I'm not going to put this stuff into my body that's not been tested. I don't want to be a guinea pig for something that's not even a vaccination. And you're going to withhold my right to employment. You're going to fire me. Okay, that's a test of faith. It's fantastic. I know it doesn't feel comfortable at the time, but if you're employed by a bunch of people that, wish you to do something against your will, and unless you submit, you're going to be fired, who'd want to work for them anyway?
I know some people might have these basic fears of not managing and landing on the streets, and I say, well, that's where community kicks in. We can if we really want to, we can build community and we can help each other out. One of us has a big garden, we can grow some food together. I bring these things in, and I often meet this what and I'm thinking, well, if we don't feel uncomfortable, where is the place to grow? Where is it?
And comfort, profit, and greed is the path of ego, and we don't learn anything from making fast profits, feeling comfortable, and being greedy. And in fact, when we have to do with much less, you suddenly begin to realize, God, I didn't need all that stuff. I didn't need so much food. I didn't need so much clothing.
I think when you realize, when there is a low point in your life, when you realize there are certain people looking after you, then you know what is truly important. It really is, it's faith and it's friendship
Yeah.
and community. Yeah.
Well, I've lost everything twice in my life. First,
Mm.
lost in addiction, the archetype of the destroyer. And if something comes in and destroys your life, whether it's an addiction or whether it's a person, whether it's whatever it is, the opportunity disguised as loss is always the reverse side of the archetype. So for the destroyer, it's the change maker.
Mhm.
And you have to empty out before you can fill up again.
Mm.
And you'll fill up in a much better way and live a much better life that you couldn't possibly have imagined if you were just comfortable, profitable, and greedy with
Mm.
your door closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So we're getting to the end of this beautiful interview. Thank you so much, Susie. Is there any
well,
last words you would like to direct to the people out there at Think Well, Be Well, and the world, the rest of the world?
gosh.
Anything you'd like to say?
Spiritualize matter every single day. Bring energy into your chakra system. Get everything flowing. Adjust your fuel. If you're eating, sugary processed foods, which we all love, then you can just little by little begin to change your diets. Get out into nature. I'm lucky. I'm in, on the Mendips, on the Somerset Levels. It's stunning. And invest in you. Instead of going for another holiday on a beach somewhere, drinking cocktails, spend that money to go stay with someone like me who can change your life. 1 week, you'll come out completely renewed, reinvigorated, revitalized, but able to think and feel from a point of power, clarity, and focus, and know that you're resilient. So what if you lose your job? It's just a job. There's another job. Do you think there's some, angry God with a big white stick that's going to have you lose your job and nothing wonderful ever happen to you again? I've never ever had that experience myself. Every time I've lost something, a person, a place, a thing, money, a job, something much better has always come in. And the blessings of losing 70% of both lungs, which are now concrete. It's a blessing of being forced to slow down. And also, it's a blessing of when I stand next to toxic people, I choke, I start to cough. So it's kind of like a canary in a coal mine, an alert to, you can help this person, but beware. They're running patterns, they're projecting, you don't need them. I'd far rather focus on the people at this point in our evolution who need my skills to wake up and self-realize. The Essenes had a saying which was, give comfort to the sleeping, awaken the drowsy, initiate the awakened. If I had to say what I do in one word, that's it. One sentence, that's probably it.
Okay.
So,
And you're happy for people to get in touch with you, and I provide the links in the right
delighted.
order.
Delighted. Good.
Well, thank you, Susie. Thank you. It was a very interesting conversation, and
Thank you.
I'm grateful for everything you've said and resonate with absolutely everything you've said so far. So, and
Yes.
I hope to meet you in person, or I hope we meet you in person when we have our first, physical event going, which might be sometime next year. We'll see.
I'll be there. But meanwhile, personally, I'm going to be staying for Christmas at Bishopstone, which is near Tame, just on the border of Oxford. So if there's a chance for a coffee, I know it's a busy time of year, but I'd love to meet you.
I'd love to take you up on that, Susie. We do that when we've stopped our interview.
All right. So, okay. So
Very
bye,
nice.
everyone. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
And great interview. Thank you. Fantastic questions. You've really thought through the questions, and that's always, so important. If you don't get asked the right questions.
Yeah, I think that's what it is all about. And I shall stop it now because otherwise we never stop.
Okay. Okay.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.